Well, it's a Monday morning, 9:15, and I am leaving 𝐓𝐨𝐲. I'm heading to Boquete. I spent 4 nights in Boquete, and in this series, I'm going to be talking with real estate professionals. I'm going to show you the restaurants that I went to, an awesome coffee tour that I did, and a beautiful park just in town in Boquete. We're also going to do interviews with people and business owners and get rental information, which this video is all about. If you want to skip ahead to the property that's for sale, go ahead to about 22 minutes in the video. All right now we are in a historic coffee shop building. I'm talking with Samm Ferreira of Inside Panama Real Estate. Samm, thank you so much for your time. And
it's a pleasure.
I like to start by asking people what their personal journey was to come to Panama. Can you share that with my subscribers?
Yeah, sure. So I am a South African, and around 8 years ago, my husband decided that Panama was the place for us. And I thought, where in the world is Panama, coming from a different continent? And he then started up a business in Panama, and I moved here, and that's kind of where our journey started.
How did he start it? What kind of business did he start?
He did a lot of grinding and cutting discs. He started that. He's actually moved on from that. He's now the Boquete locksmith.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So if you're in Boquete looking for a locksmith, yeah.
He's the guy.
Yeah, he's the guy. So yes, and I got into real estate by fluke. It was just something I was determined to stay home and relax after being in a corporate industry for so many years. And then someone inside Panama actually said to me, well, there's an opportunity to do rentals, and that's kind of how I fell into it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
And so how long have you been kind of working in the real estate area here? Because you also handle sales.
Yeah, for 6 years.
6 years. Mm-hmm. What kind of changes have you seen in Boquete in the past 6 years? Because there's a little bit of hyper growth, right?
So when I first arrived, I always joke with people saying, it was just quiet. It was a small little town, and I thought, oh my gosh, this isn't for me. I felt so out of my skin. And then when COVID hit, things changed, because a lot of people then decided, oh wait, we can work from home. So instead of just having where there's a mindset of just a lot of people coming in to retire, it's not the case. There are people with young families, there are people from the city. So a lot of Panamanians have bought into Boquete with their young families, as well as Americans or Canadians or Europeans that have come in with their families. We've had people from New Zealand, from Australia, South Africa, that have young families that have come in and invested into Boquete. So it no longer is a town where it's just expats retiring into. So that's changed a lot.
Or the just tourist.
Or just tourists,
yes. So now it's more of a mix of families, young children, and I would imagine that kind of increased like international school attendance.
Yes, and my daughter went to international school, to AIB. She did a grade 10, 11, and 12.
Is that in Boquete?
It's in Boquete. It's about a 20-minute drive out of town. A lovely school, also nice to recommend that. I think a lot of expats or children have the fear of, our children aren't going to cope. But my thought was throw in the deep end and see what happens. If you're integrating, you need to integrate your children. Homeschooling is a good option, but for me, I just felt it was a better option for her. She now attends Florida State University campus in Panama City. And,
interesting.
And that was just such an easy transition, because she already understood the culture, and she already understood quite a lot of Spanish.
I think some kids will complain like, oh, we moved around, a lot, or my parents picked up and moved us to Panama. But, really it gives kids resilience, flexibility, it lets them see other cultures, because like when I moved as a kid, it was traumatizing because I'd been in my home forever. And, I was just that kind of kid that like didn't deal well with change.
No, and technology, because if you think about it, you would write letters. I remember writing letters, and now technology has brought the world even smaller for them, so they're more grown up. They're actually forced to grow up a lot quicker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's got its good and bad points, right? The growing up faster. Yeah.
Yes, for sure.
So let's chat a little bit about the rental market, because there's some misinformation about like pricing on rentals in particular, that, you know, people will try and promote a certain area as, you know, you can find, you know, a 3-bedroom house for $600.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the reality of renting, what you're seeing, what you've seen over the few years.
Okay, so the misconception mostly is that there's a low season and a high season. In rentals in Boquete, that's no longer the case, because in the past a lot of Canadians would come and they would be snowbirds. Now the Canadians have actually invested into Boquete, and they now stay in where before they used to go in and out. That's made a lot of change to the rental market, because then the rentals would be open. Now the market has become so challenging to find rentals because people are staying longer on. The pricing is a big thing. So to get a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom property, you would look at something between $1,200 up to $2,500. Yes, you can find a $650 property, but that would be down in David, it would be in Dolega. It wouldn't be in the areas that most people want, a mountain home with a lot of space. Realistically, also those houses, when Boquete started with rentals, they actually started it would normally be 1 or 2 bedrooms with 1 bathroom, because at that point in time when the rentals started becoming an interest to expats, it was only retirees. Since then it's changed, so even to find a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom property is a challenge, because a lot of them are either rented for years already, or there just isn't on the market. There isn't that big source of availability currently.
Right. We have that problem in 𝐓𝐨𝐿. There's always tons of posts on the Facebook group looking for a house to rent, and I'm always like, oh, good luck.
Yeah, where do you find that? Because there isn't. And also the changes come, a lot of the houses that were for rent have sold. So because there's such a huge influx of people and interest in buying, and that's also the thing, people think, oh, if we go out in the quiet season. Right now, in the last, I would say 3 years, there hasn't been a quiet season.
Wow.
And people would say to me, what is your quiet months? I would probably say, funny enough, March and October for me, when I dealt with renters, were quiet, but they still got rentals in. But other than that, from January to December, renters are constantly busy. People are moving here, and they're not moving for the season, they're moving for their personal reasons, which plays a factor in it.
Yeah. When you talk about, and when you've seen growth in Boquete, it comes with pluses and minuses. What are some of those pluses and minuses, like with real estate development in particular?
I think the minus is the huge influx of people coming in to invest. It makes it a lot more busier, the town, where the people that have lived here long, as selfish as they are, they hate the idea of it being so busy, but that happens in any place that's popular. So I think the other challenge is also the water. So in certain areas you'll find that the supply of water, because now you have all these smaller developments coming in, water supply is a challenge. So I must commend the municipality, because a lot of times when there is an issue, so I need to mention this, I manage 11 properties in Boquete.
Wow.
So with that, I've picked up challenges on rentals, and there's certain areas that water becomes a problem, because the supply now goes all the way to a certain point, and suddenly now a new development's opened up, and certain areas are not getting a lot of water. So that's a challenge that the municipality is looking at, putting bigger pipes in to allow more water flow, because there might be water going to property, but it might be a low flow.
Right.
The other thing is when we get events like the
flower
festival, the
festival,
coffee, in April when it's the holidays, in December when it's holidays, there's a lot of pressure put on the water supply and the electricity. So then you'll find a lot of dips in the electricity and in the water supply. So that's a reality that happens. Living here so long, you adjust to it, so it's not it doesn't mean you don't get electricity, but you'll find a dip and suddenly your electricity will go off and it'll go on again. And that's a negative to your refrigerators and
Yep.
all your
surge protectors.
Yes, that's a big thing.
Yeah.
For sure. Yes.
And then what about what's the general feeling of all the development that's happening? And are you finding developers being respectful of the environment, the trees? I've kind of heard some stories about some developments just clear cutting, and then you end up with flooding issues.
Yes. So I think a lot of them, yes, they are aware of it, because I must say that what I've picked up on, it's not easy. Just you can find an area and you can build and you can decide on getting a development, but getting the approvals would take time. So there is consideration for the environment, there is consideration for where it's being built. Flooding in Boquete is a very interesting subject, because it's not really based on the developments as much as it is where Boquete is in. Because if you look at it, we're in the mountains and there's a dip. So when there is flooding, the good thing is that the municipality does look at it and they do fix the areas. For example, if you drove over that bridge that you came from, that was an old little bridge coming into the rock before, and they've improved that road significantly. So where the floods might have happened before, it no longer does, because they've also opened up the water areas. So they do look at correcting it every time there is an issue. What you see on the news isn't really a representative of what actually happens when there's flooding, because some people love to exaggerate. So they would, it's just the way people are on social media. But it's not, there's never been an instance or a time where it's affected me or my work based on the flooding. And none of the houses that I've sold or have available have ever been affected by the flooding.
But like last year, though, there were reports of, and you can see evidence of it, roads flushed out, washed out. There's a lot of rebuilding that's happening right now, for the river, and boulders being put in place, and a lot of roads being, supported, or,
infrastructure.
Yeah.
I think that happens when it does happen and they do see areas that need to be worked on. The other issue is where people build. So some of them build against the riverbank.
Yeah.
And that's
not smart.
That's not a smart thing. So, or people build and they remove the trees and they remove the vegetation, and those trees' roots hold the water.
Yes.
So that's the other issue. Yes. So it's people that actually cause the problem.
Yes. Exactly.
Not the environment.
It's always the people, isn't it?
But no, the positive thing, I think, is knowing that there is work done, there is improvements done. The community does come together. The mayor does take an interest in making sure that there's repairs and there's improvements to the roads.
That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because I know like some smaller communities don't necessarily have that support from the municipalities. But I think an area, and that's one benefit, right, of being in Boquete, and for me being in 𝐓𝐸, is that the government is invested in keeping those areas maintained. But we have power outages and water outages as well.
Yeah, you can't get away from that. And that's the thing people need to realize. I get it, often people come in and do viewings, and the funniest question I get is there bugs? Yes, there is bugs. There is snakes. We live in an environment where that is common, but it doesn't affect your daily life.
Right. Unless you get stung by a scorpion, I did.
Oh, yes, that happens. But maybe that's a good topic also to bring up, is what to look out for in a rental. That's something people don't consider, if you don't mind me sharing.
Absolutely. No, that's a perfect idea.
Yeah. So mostly it would be, one of the things is the screens. Look at the screens on your windows, because that prevents any insects coming in. Making sure there's a water tank, so you have water supply at the property. It's not always an issue at rentals, because most of them do have it, but you never know. There could be a burst pipe, there could be other incidents that could happen. The other thing is also understanding your rental agreement, because I think a lot of people come in and they then decide, they trust this agent or they trust this person because they've been communicating with them. and they just sign an agreement. They don't read through it. Sometimes people sign an agreement that's purely just in Spanish, and it's not been translated in English. The other issue I find with rentals is also understanding is there aircon, is there a fan? Because sometimes you would find that you do get mold here. You're living in a very moist area, so make sure there is ventilation that runs through. Make sure if there's air cons needed or if there's fans required, those are given.
And also what's included in the rent and what isn't, right?
So when you look at the agreement, the first thing you should look at is the FINCA number, and that's only because your lawyer, if you choose to have your lawyer review it, they can make sure that the owner at the public registry is registered. That's a registered owner. The second thing to look at is the rental price. So what is the price? What is the terms? Is it $1,000 for a year? Understanding if you break lease, what will you forfeit? Understanding the security deposit. So the security deposit is normally 1 month's rent. So whatever you pay, and if it's $1,000, it's $1,000 security deposit. Understanding the pet clause. Is there a pet clause? Is there a deposit on the pets? Making sure you understand utilities, what's included. No rental in a development should ever charge you HOA fees. That is for the owner. Water and garbage should be included because owners pay it annually in Boquete.
Right.
The things that are usually not included would be maybe the garden service, the propane, the electricity, and the internet. Those are normally discussed between the owner and the landlord and the tenant.
And I think for houses that might be a little older or a little more basic, hot water, right?
Yes.
Finding out if there's hot water.
A lot of people are too shy to open the faucets and check. And whenever I do a viewing, I always say, open the faucets, go in the shower, open, check. Open things and look and explore. Don't be too shy to do that because you're going to live there. At the end of the day, even as much as the agent might be invested in the property, they don't live there, so they might not know if that window opens or how is the pressure of the water. Things that you take, you don't think of living in another country. You come here and it's so different. And you need to look at those.
Yeah. And also understanding who pays for what maintenance, right?
For sure. And
because,
the owner should.
Yeah, well, I've heard stories of, different things happening, right? Like if an appliance breaks 3 months into a rental, is that the owner? Is that the tenant?
So for me, all the properties I manage, that's the owner's because it's the owner's, it belongs to the owner.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, it's the tenant's property. But no, for me, the only thing I would say would be a grey area might be looking at having pest control.
Yeah.
That's something the tenants would do as and when they require. But the rest of the maintenance, the property belongs to the owner. So it needs to have a clear understanding if a water heater breaks or if a pipe is damaged. And also if it's not due to neglect and it's due to wear and tear.
Right.
Yes. So if you have a clicker that opens a gate but you broke the clicker, you should be responsible for replacing it. But if the gate's broken because of the motor, that should be the owner. I'm just giving an example.
Now, it's my understanding that rental deposits are supposed to be held at there's like can you tell me about that? I don't even know the name of it, but like they're supposed to be held somewhere.
At the housing in David.
Okay,
so
and how often does that happen?
Not often.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of issues with getting the money back. So a lot of the secret in Panama, in all honesty, is finding a trustworthy landlord and being a trustworthy tenant.
Okay.
Because legally, I'm from South Africa, so we don't get a lot of legal issues or people don't really sue each other. But in Panama, if you had to go down that road, it would be so expensive. It wouldn't be worth your while to get $800 money back. When you break lease, the only thing you forfeit is your security deposit. People don't go after you. They don't sue you. They don't try to take it further because legally, it would take years to resolve something like that.
Right.
So just when you go into rental, find an agent or if you decide to go with someone, find out the reputation. Ask if you can speak to the previous tenant. Get to know the area, get to know the person. Don't just go on an emotional feeling like, oh, this is the beginning and end all for me. This is my my last home to stay in. This is my forever
Right.
home. Just like you would in your own country, just use your common sense to be your guide, and just find people that have a good reputation, that have done rentals. Don't rent from someone that you feel uncomfortable with, because your senses will tell you if something's off, and trust your gut.
Sometimes though, because I find like when people are new, common sense can go out the window because they're in this new environment. It's happy and bright, and
it's a honeymoon.
Yes, it is the honeymoon. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, just trust. This is what's lovely about having you do these type of talks, is understanding that we all need to come. We're in a foreign country. You need to still have your wits about you. You still need to ask those questions.
Right.
I know coming here, it seems all fun and everyone's kind. And yes, they are kind and they are polite, but it doesn't make them good people.
Right.
So you need to make sure, like you would anywhere in the world, ask those questions and feel comfortable. And if you're unsure, ask your lawyer. A lot of people would come to me and say, can I send the agreement to my lawyer? Yes, 100%. Whatever you're comfortable with, or if you can read it and understand it, and something doesn't make sense, ask. Because once you've signed that agreement, 3 months down the line, there might be an issue and you relook at it and there's something you don't agree with. That puts you at such an odd position. So
Right.
go through it slowly, take your time. I always say when I do showings, I never go on emotional. If they say, oh, I want this, I'll say, go, think about it, talk to me tomorrow, ask those questions, think about it. Don't just immediately want to rent. Go back and ask me for the rental agreement, go through it, look at it, ask questions, and then when you're ready to sign, nothing. If our show is showing on a Monday, you're not going to move in on the Wednesday. Maybe by the Friday, once I feel you comfortable.
Right.
Because I've seen people make that mistake, or say, oh, I want to rent it now, and then the next day have a change of heart, or get to a point where they change their mind, which they're allowed to, but allow yourself time to do that. Don't feel under pressure to commit immediately, and don't let anyone put you under pressure to do that.
Yeah, I think that's a really good piece of advice for people. Yeah, thank you for that. Thank you so much for your time. We're going to end this segment and we're going to chat about the properties that you have listed for sale.
Okay, perfect, yes.
All right, so I'm talking with Samm, who is a broker with Inside Panama Real Estate.
Yes.
Can you go ahead and introduce yourself to my subscribers and tell them about the first property we're going to see?
Okay, hello. I'm Samm Ferreira. I work with Inside Panama Real Estate. I've been with them for the last 6 years. One of the properties I'd like to chat to you about is a property in Portugal, Rica. So that is about a 40-minute drive out of Boquete. It is a bit of a different feel. If you like the farmland, if you like larger lots and more privacy, it is a beautiful area. It's some area that a lot of people don't consider, but something that they might be interested in. So the house that I want to speak to you about is a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom home. It is newly built, so it was built last year. It is a beautiful ground, so it's 180 square foot home. It is 4,379 square lot, so it's a spacious lot.
Oh yeah,
$297,000, a newly built home with all that space. There's a stream behind it. It is in a little community with, I would say, about 6 other new properties built there. So it's something to consider. It's something different. Again, if you don't want to be in the noise and you don't want to be in the mountains, it's another option to consider.
So the climate is a little bit warmer there, right?
It's more or less the same as Boquete, I would say. It's just that the environment in terms of nature and the space is a lot more pleasant, and it's not, it's more of a flat land, to where Boquete, a lot of the properties might be in the mountains. So you have more space in your grounds to enjoy it maybe a bit more.
And what are some of the finishings and amenities of the house?
Okay, so it is a modern build. The owner really took into consideration looking at his modern kitchen, so it has its soft close. So he is a woodworker, so he has actually built all the beds. They stay. A lot of wood finishes. It's modern. It is got a lot of natural light coming into it. Definitely a beautiful home that you can extend on in terms of maybe adding a deck at the back. The garden hasn't really been touched, so it's your own oasis to make your own. The space around it gives you a feeling, even though you have neighbors, you still have that privacy of having that space around you.
Yeah, that sounds nice. And then, so how far would that be to David?
I would say David is probably a 20-minute drive. It is between Boquete and David.
So since it's a newer build, what are some of the features that a buyer would appreciate?
Oh, definitely the space in terms of the closets. So even in the bathrooms, he's put in extra hidden spaces that you wouldn't think of, but you'd like. The space between the his and hers in the bathrooms is great. Looking at the bedrooms, there's a lot of closet space. The other thing that he really put into consideration is the natural light. So we refer to it as the glass home because there's a lot of glass. It is tinted, so there is privacy, but you have a lot of glass. He's created an entertainment room that's a really nice add-on because outside of your lounge and your dining room, you have this entertainment room that you can use as either maybe a library, or if you'd like to put a snooker table in, or if you'd like to have it just as an entertainment room. The other thing is the garage. He's got a garage space, which is unique to Panama, as you know.
You mean a closed
garage?
Yeah. Really?
Yes.
Yeah, that is very...
And sliding doors that slide it open.
Oh.
So that is definitely an add-on where you don't actually find those features in most properties.
Yeah, somebody who does, woodworking or shop work could set up a little studio in there maybe.
And if you have your husband that loves to collect things, that would be his man cave.
The man cave, yeah.
Yes. So definitely that's an extra feature.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing that property with us.
If you're going through a time of self-discovery, please check out my Amazon link where my books are located, and you never know what you might create for yourself. Thanks so much for watching. Have a great week.